Hello and welcome to Lovely English Stories. Thank you for stopping by. This story is written for intermediate English learners. Ready? Let's get started. B2 English Story. The Hoarder. Janice couldn't stand having clutter around her home. She lived in a small two-bedroomed flat in the centre of a busy market town. She had all the basics that she needed: a mirror, a coat stand, some shelves, plants, a couple of paintings drawn for her by a friend, and the furniture she needed to get by. She bought her sofa and dining table second-hand from someone at work, and her TV stand, telly, and radio were given to her by her uncle when he moved to a nursing home. The only things Janice bought new were her bed, desk, and kitchen items. Luckily, her flat had fitted wardrobes and lots of storage space, so she didn't need to worry about that. Many of her cupboards were empty. Janice only kept things that meant something to her. She wasn't a fan of ornaments or having photographs all over her walls. She had two lovely watercolour paintings hung above her fireplace. Her friend, Susanna, had painted them for her when they worked together many years ago. She loved the scenes and found them very relaxing to look at. The only decorations Janice had around her flat were her plants and flowers. She also liked to have colourful cushions and comfortable blankets. They added lots of much-needed vibrancy to her living area. In the bedroom, she had a lovely soft rug and a wooden box at the end of her bed which was full of her teenage diaries and mementos from her life to date. This box was the only place where she allowed any sort of clutter. It was her memory box. Many of Janice's friends admired her home. They also said how they wished they could have a home as clean and tidy as hers. Janice always told them that they could, but they would need to get rid of about 50% of their tat, as she called it. Many of her friends had knickknacks, pictures, ornaments, and general rubbish laid around their houses. If there was a spare shelf, they would have it covered in books, plants, crystals, and all sorts of paraphernalia. Life wasn't always so simplified for Janice. She made the change to a minimalist lifestyle about 5 years ago, after she realized that she had a problem with hoarding. Ever since she was a child, she would collect things. She had train ticket collections, postcards, celebrity autographs, pictures, stamps, figures of her favorite cartoon characters, and posters all over her walls of her favorite bands. Her parents thought she would grow out of it, but she didn't. When she moved out, her home resembled a cave. It was full of magazines, newspapers, vases, plants, sketchbooks, canvases, empty boxes from electrical goods, and an abundance of tat. Janice loved to keep things. She hated the thought of throwing things away. She knew she had a problem, but quite literally brushed it under the carpet. It was only when she had an accident at home that she realized her hoarding had gone too far. One day, after finishing a long shift at work, she came home and slipped on some magazines which she kept in huge piles in her hallway. She fell with a bang and consequently broke her arm. When the paramedics arrived to help her, they couldn't get into her flat properly because of all the possessions and junk that were taking up so much space. She felt embarrassed, and once she returned from the hospital with her arm covered in a plaster cast, she realized what a state her flat was in. How had she let it get this bad? She decided to ask for help, and so she spoke to a therapist who explained to her why she was holding on to her possessions so much. She realized that because she grew up with little money, she held on to everything she bought. She was scared someone might take it all away from her. Janice spoke to her parents about her issues, and they agreed to help her sort through her flat. It took weeks, but they finally got there. They gave some things to charity, some things went online to sell, and others went to a local auction. At first, Janice found the experience traumatic. She really didn't like the thought of all her possessions being taken away from her, but as they slowly removed things, she started to feel a sense of lightness. As her flat became emptier, she felt calmer. She didn't feel as heavy and was able to move around with ease. No longer was she searching through piles of rubbish or mislaying valuable documents. Her flat was now organized and had a lovely, welcoming atmosphere. This was when Janice decided to allow herself the memory box. In there, she kept all the possessions that actually meant something to her. It helped her to keep her hoarding under control. As the next couple of years passed, Janice found it easier to keep her flat clean and tidy. She only bought things that she needed. She realized that she had saved thousands of pounds by not splashing out on the latest trend. After years of living in a rubbish version of Aladdin's cave, she now had a lovely home with all the basics she needed. Now her flat was welcoming to guests, and she was no longer embarrassed by the way she lived. She found that by introducing minimalism into her life, she had newfound energy. Not only that, but her bank balance was a lot healthier, not to mention her mental health being significantly improved. Janice thought she needed to be surrounded by things to feel a sense of self-worth, but in reality, all she needed was peace within herself, and for that to be reflected within her living space. Do you like to live in a minimalist space, or do you prefer to be surrounded by your possessions? Tell us in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed this lovely English story. Thank you for stopping by. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you soon.